So we need a spare tire for the Lincoln before we take it on a road trip. So let's mount one up. So when I bought the tires, well, when I was trying to find out what size tires to buy, put it that way, I really wanted to run a 255 7015. Found a deal. I think it was 40 or 50 bucks for 2 tires from just a guy on, I think it was actually on OfferUp. And one of them I knew, I got the date codes on them. One of them I knew was much older and too old to run, really. But I did use that one as a mock-up tire. I mounted it on one of my aluminum rims and used that to mount on the tire, which is the purpose that I wanted. I wanted a cheap tire, at least one, that I could use to mount around. I didn't care how much tread it had on. I didn't care how old it was. I just needed to make sure it would clear the fender skirts, which is what I did. And it also, I had this one. It was a non-matching set. One, I don't remember the brand, but anyway, a non-matching set of tires. One was like 10 years old. This one's 5 years old, and it's got, I'd say 75% tread, maybe more, probably 75%. So it's a good tire, and it's age-wise, it's still got some use left in it, and it's not showing any weather cracking. The guy said he had them in his shed. He actually had to pull them out when I got it for a couple years and just couldn't get rid of them. And so, you know, this one, you know, it's 5 years old, but it's probably only got a couple years of sunlight. Sunlight's what kills them down here, and they get dry rotted so fast. So this one's not showing any dry rot. 5 years old. It's going to live its life in the trunk. So we're going to mount it up as a spare tire. The same size tire that I'm running. I picked up 4 brand new tires. They're not Cooper Cobras, they're Mastercrafts. That's the cheapest one I could get. They were cheaper than the Cooper Cobras, which is, I normally buy the Cooper Cobras because they're the cheapest, but the Mastercrafts were cheaper this time. Anyway, so I took one of our wheels, the original wheels that were on the Lincoln, cleaned up the rust on it, painted it. Looks nice to me. And so we're going to mount that tire on this rim. We're going to put a new valve stem on it because I pulled the old one out to paint it. And I knew I was going to be putting a new one in it anyway. So we're going to mount that on there. And we may even balance the tire. Yeah, balancing a spare, something I normally don't ever do. Because spares to me are just a point A to point B kind of deal. You know, it gets you where you need to go. I don't really care if has some vibration in it because I'm going to go buy a tire. That's kind of my thought. Anyway, that's if I'm mounting the spare myself, I guess, which I normally do because I don't really care. Anyway, so we're going to mount it up. I'll show you all that. I'll set up some time lapse as I fight and mount this thing. Hopefully it won't be too difficult. And then these should go on the rim really easy as far as, you know, air pressure, popping them on the rim because these rims are pretty narrow. Really makes it easy. And then I may pull out my bubble balancer and we'll balance it really quick just for the heck of it. So you may be interested in seeing that. So I'll show you. So if you're curious, this is of course the manual tire changer, and this is not like your Harbor Freight stuff. This is a much older than me and probably older than my parents tire changer. I think this is probably from the 40s, maybe even earlier. Yeah, I think it's from the 40s. Anyway, well made. It really needs to be mounted, but I've used this thing all my life, pretty much. I mean, I've been around this thing since, well, my grandfather had it before I was even born. So I've been around it all my life. And it has never been mounted. And so that's how I learned to use it. And so that's probably how it'll stay because it's, you know, you can move it around. So we're going to put our valve core in, or our valve stem in. And I like these little 4-way tools. I know You know, there's a lot of different kinds you can get, but it's kind of like the multi-tool of, you know, mountain tires. And Valcor is not in it. Left it out. Actually, I stole it out of that one for something else. And then I finally, because I was out of Valcors and I had a leaky one, so I stole one out of a new valve stem. And I've got a whole pack of them now, so I need to grab one out of the pack and put in here, but I left it off until we get it seated against the rim. So I know you can get goop and stuff to put around here. I just use soap, just dish soap, and let me think what else. As far as the tool goes, you've got, this is kind of your area to put the bead of the rim when you're pulling it off, to make it easier to remove this indentation here. And so this has a tool here to undo the opposite side of to break the bead on the back side of the rim, and then use this for the front side. Of course, this is for removing tires. And this never has worked well, so I flip it over upside down and use that tool to break the back side, flip the rim over, you know, lock it down with your nut here, and then break down the front side with that tool. That's how I break them down. So it does involve flipping the rim over. For installing a tire, you know, so if you're pulling one off, putting one on, you know, once you flip it once, it can stay on this side as you mount the tire. There's no reason to move around. And then it's got a different tool to install. So I just take soap, and I use this for removal too, and I just wipe down the bead of the tire with it. Don't have to go crazy with it. But it really makes things nice. It really makes it go easier removing the tire. That's where it really works out well. To me, they're harder to get off than they are to get on. Again, like I said, you don't have to go crazy with it. You could even have a spray bottle of soapy water, and that would be good enough. You got it on the bead. And like bead sealer or something like that would probably be better if you had like aluminum rims, but that's not what we've got here. I did paint the bead of the rim to help keep it from rusting. All right, so now is where you can save yourself some time. If you kind of put the tire on forcefully, it'll kind of like halfway get around the bead, or halfway on by itself. I'll show you that. So we're halfway on. So then this is the tool to install. So this goes around the lip of the rim, and this rolls around the bead of the tire. And for removal, you've got this side, which originally had a roller here, but that roller is long gone. I use this side of it, and again, I just soap it up and it slides right on the tire. It doesn't really have to have the roller, because this guy's been gone probably 20 years. There is a curve to this, so I always forget which way, but that's backwards. So it's gonna go like that, or let's see, yeah. So I'm gonna come in here, And that roller, let's see, that roller is mainly used for the top side bead. Let me just show you all this. So that's fits in like this. It's going to push down on the bead, and then as you're pushing it around, you're going to lift up on this, which is going to then put pressure on here to push the tire in. It rolls more on the top side bead. Just kind of how it does when you go to do the top side. So hopefully that makes sense as I'm installing it. You can kind of see, or it makes sense to you. Actually, I'm gonna pull this away a little bit, reposition y'all. But this is kind of what I do, is I kind of pull it out of the way, or I push it out of the way when I'm done with it. So now, I did have it backwards. Yeah. I did. I had it backwards. So ignore what I showed you. I will point out that indentation in the rim, where I said your bead sits, make sure the opposite side that's down in is sitting in that groove. I've almost got it. See, not too bad. Now, on the top side, I normally just start it somewhere opposite of the valve stem, and I just push down. And again, what you're trying to do is you're trying to push the side that's in down into that groove. That's going to make it easier. That's what that's made for. And again, I'll show y'all so you get the idea of what's going on. So we've got the bead down in that inset in the rim. And like I said, this roller, once you're working on the top side, rolls along the bead. Once you get it maybe a little bit further than this, you're gonna pick up, and that's gonna drop it. See how it, when you pick up on it, it drops that bead down. That's what you're doing. And Harbor Freight's got these things, but I'm sure they're probably not as beefy as these. Or is this one? And it's mounted. So what I normally do then, I take the nut off, and then I'll get my air hose, and we're gonna pop it on the bead. Not only just let it sit there and do it, and then, well, I'll bring y'all back when I get the air hose. Okay, so for seating the bead, what I normally do, I'm gonna have my valve core and my tool handy. So new valve core. Of course it was a new valve stem, but like I said, I had robbed the valve core, so I got another new valve core and my tool. And because this works well, I don't use the air up tool to seat the bead. On these longer valve core or valve stems, my air hose fitting shoves right on there and injects air, and it injects it a whole lot quicker than, you know, your normal inflator. And so that works better for popping the tire against the bead, because you've got air escaping around the bead of the tire, and so you need to get a lot of air in quick so that it overcomes that air loss and, you know, seats the bead against the rim. And then I'll plug the hole up, grab my valve stem or valve core, and install it. So that's what you're going to see here. Just shoving it straight on the valve stem. Well, never had that happen. Well, that's a different end than I normally use. I've swapped out my ends since I last did a tire. This is an aluminum one. It must not have liked that. We'll see if just something got dislodged and now it's okay after having a actual chuck in it. Yeah. So it must have just gotten jammed over sideways or something. I don't know. It's fine now. So now it's on. We probably don't have much air pressure in it. So I'm gonna put about 35. Well, I'll put, let's see, what's max on these? Max is 44. Let's put 40 in it. Got 10. I don't even, it may not even be seated all the way on the back side. We'll see. A lot of times they pop loud, but I think it did seat. 40. All right. Keep up with our tool. You can actually buy these at Walmart. And that tire looks good. I don't even see any cracking in it with it aired up. A lot of times they'll look good, but once you get air in them, you'll start seeing dry rot. And then there's our back side. There's dirt on it. Right now what you could do is go ahead and just spray everything down if you wanted to check for leaks. I think we're going to be good on here. But I definitely would do that on aluminum rims. They're just so prone to corrosion and leaking. But really don't have an issue on these steel wheels. And I cleaned these up. So, and the bead of the tire looked good. So I think we're good. So let me get my bubble balancer. And I'll show you how to do that real quick. So I just set this right inside the shop because the sidewalk, or the entryway there, is sloped and you want a level surface. Shop floor is level. So before you start, you want to make sure your bubble is in the center of this circle, and then if it's not, you use those 3 screws to adjust it to get it level. It's level. So we're gonna set that on here. You're gonna set it down on the center with the hole of the rim there, and the tire is gonna push this down until the center of the rim fits around this cone. And I've got a side marked. I try to keep, when I take it off and put it back on, because it's leveled the way it is. I don't put the weights on with it sitting on here. I do that with it off. And so I like to set it down, or I like to take it off to put the weights on, and then I put it back on. So I've got a spot here marked, and then a side right there, so I keep all this lined up with there. so I don't mess up my leveling. And then the valve, I'll line the valve stem up with that as well. So when I take it off, put it back on, it's all still in line. So I don't have to mess with the level, because the quality on that thing is, it's okay, but it's not the best. It's a Harbor Freight one, and you rotate that around, it may not be quite level. So if I've got it level with that lined up, as long as I keep all that lined up, it stays level. And I'm putting the tire back on, same spot. I don't know, it's just, yeah. So let me show you that. It's been a couple years since I used this thing. Like I said, I rarely use it. Pretty much, if I want something to be balanced, I'm just gonna go take it and get it machine balanced. That's kind of my thought. See how that did? And then just kind of work it to make sure it is centered up in that thing, which it is. So now you're just gonna let the tire sit, and your bubble will not be, well, if it's out of level, see? So now we know this side right here is heavy. So where our bubble is, we need to go over and put some weight. So let's see. Let's just let's see what we got here for weights. Of course, I bumped it. And I just save weights from different tires I dismount. So let's try just set a weight. That is not enough. So let's go big. Go big or go home, right? It's a pretty heavy weight. Oh shoot. Come on. Still not enough. Okay. What's the biggest one I've got? I don't like the, it looks more like a mag wheel weight. You kind of tell the mag wheel ones are open more because they got a thicker lip. Might can hammer it shut a little bit. Let's try this one. That's close. So let's try that one, and let's pair it with that one. This tire needs a lot of weight. Let's throw this guy on it, and this guy. And you kind of can play with them. Yeah, it's real close. We could throw one more on it. That is a lot of weight. So here's my full disclosure on why I stopped using this. So I would do this and then put it, you know, I'd take it off, hammer the weights on, put it back on, and it would be completely off. So let's see if that happens. I'm hoping by keeping everything in line, like I said, that won't be the issue, but that didn't always happen, but it happened quite a bit. So let's see what happens. I'm going to take the tire off, knock these weights on with the hammer, and then we'll put it back on, see if it's level. Well, we lucked out, I guess, because we're still balanced, but I'm not crazy about it. It's okay for a spare, but I don't think long term those wheel weights are going to stay on there. I did bend them shut a little more, give them a little more bite. But as you can see, they've got a gap, and that's for the wider rim of the wider lip of a mag wheel. These are not steel wheel weights. So I'll be completely honest with you, and y'all chime in if I'm doing something wrong here. But, you know, got this thing level, and this is kind of why I stopped messing with it and haven't used it in so long, because it got frustrating trying to use it. But I thought, you know, maybe if I mark, you know, get it level, make sure it's level, put the tire on and off, same exact spot, make sure when I put it on, make sure it's completely centered up and around the cone, all that kind of stuff. And I've done that. And, you know, I pulled those weights off, you know, that I had on there, and actually went and took weights off the other steel wheels from the Lincoln. And so I got 2 weights on it. You could use just a hair more, but if you notice, we're having to add weight over here, and we had to add weight over there before. Something's not right with this balancer or the way I'm using it, but all I can tell you is that when it goes on there, it's level. Or, you know, before the tire goes on, it's level. Putting the tire on, you know, I don't know. Y'all let me know. In theory, this is exactly how it should work, but I kind of feel like I've got something not quite right on this one, or not doing something right. I don't know, because it's not right. So that's how it should work, but I can tell you, I'm probably about to just take that weight off and go throw it in the trunk, because I don't know if that weight is where it should be, and that's quite a bit of weight. So I kind of feel like there's something going on with the balancer, and that may not be correct, and I think I'd rather just not have weight on it than have weight in the wrong spot. Because like I said, it moved. It was right there. You can see the marks on the rim where the weight was. And all I did is take that off, put the tire back on here, and, you know, with intentions of putting, you know, figuring out where I should put my steel weights, and they needed to be over here. So I will say, you know, it is showing mostly balance now. It needs just a hair more over here, so it stayed consistent. I will say, between that last time and this time, I did turn, I couldn't see my mark where I had marked it the first time. And so that has changed. But I did make sure, spun it around, and I marked the side of it this time. Did I mark the side? I was looking on the top. I think I may have marked the top and the side before, so I could probably look and see if there's a mark on the side again, or 2 marks on the side. But that has changed. So that would mean if we moved, say we moved 1 bolt around, that's about a 1/4, you know? So I think there's something wrong. Once this thing gets weight on it, it has a tendency to want to tilt one way or the other. Maybe that cone has something slightly wrong on it when it's sitting normal without any weight on it. You can level it out, but when you get weight on it, it wants to tilt one way or the other. I think that's what our issue is. But I mean, if that's the case, you can never get stuff balanced correctly with it, you know? It has a tendency to want to tilt one way or the other, regardless of the weight. It's almost like you would have to calibrate it. Like if I took a tire I know was balanced, so we could put some weight on it, then we dial that in, mark everything, so we make sure it doesn't move. And I don't know. I think that's what the issue is. So I'm going to pull this back off. Like I said, I remarked it because I couldn't find my original mark. I just spun it around, looked to where it looked good and balanced, marked it again to make sure I stayed in line. So let's look and see if I marked the side. I can't remember if I did or not. Okay, so here's where I scratched the side. of when I just did it. And because I'd marked the tops, maybe I marked the side too, that's not my mark. There we go. So that's almost opposite of it. So it almost, I don't know. Just to show you how this thing works, it's got a little tip there that fits down in a thing in there. Maybe that surface in there is not perfect. I don't know, but something I think is slightly off that's causing it to want to go one way or the other, and I don't trust it. So let me know what y'all think. If y'all have had one of these, like I said, this is one from Harbor Freight. I've probably had it over 10 years, maybe 15 years. And I used it for some trailer tires, and I probably haven't touched it in 5 years because the occasional times I used it, I ran into stuff like this. And I thought this time that, you can see it's level. I thought this time that, you know, if I marked everything to make sure this stayed in line, make sure I put the tire exactly in the same spot, that it would work and it would be level. But as you saw, we got some different results on different spots of the tire, which to me tells me nothing's changed on the tire. You know, we haven't added any weight or anything to this. So yeah, I don't trust it. I'm knocking those weights off. We're gonna put it in the trunk unbalanced. It's not gonna matter, to be honest. We probably skewing our results too with the rocks that are in it. Well, maybe it's only got 2, but that wasn't helping things. But maybe there's evenly distributed rocks around it. All right, well, that's a fail of balancing, but a success on mounting. Like I said, give me some insight on this thing. And the base is tight, and that's not an issue, and it doesn't wobble. It's sitting flat. It's not on a surface that's wobbly. This surface is level. I did check it initially. This is where I've always tried to balance them. I've checked this area. It is level. There's something wrong with that thing that once it gets some weight on it, it wants to tilt a certain way. And I have checked the center. I know you're say, well, it may be a little off on the center. It's not. I've wiggled it around, make sure it's completely, you know, yeah, it's centered on the hub. That's not the issue. There is something wrong with the way this thing levels out when it's got weight on it that skews the balance, and it seems to be dependent on where it's rotated. I think that's been my issue before. If I keep it completely the same, it levels, it will show level. But if that thing spins a little bit, it's gonna not show level. But that, to me, like I said, spinning that thing, it was level on the bubble level both times. But both times it showed different spots the tire needed balance. It showed it before right there, and now right here. So that's a problem. And that's gonna make that ineffective, not able to balance. Like I said, throw your ideas in the comment down below. I'd love to have this thing actually working like it's supposed to, but it just doesn't. And I thought this time I could make it work, but yeah, but we're not there. It's not working. Maybe it's defective. Maybe I got a bad one. Maybe, I don't know, but it doesn't work. Not like it is. So that's gonna do it for this one. Like I said, I'm gonna go throw this in the car. I'll wipe it down, kind of clean it up a little bit, get the rocks off of it, make sure it's not dirty, throw it in the trunk, and we'll have a good working spare. And then I'll check it in a few days, make sure it hasn't leaked down or anything, but I don't think we got any issues there. Thanks for watching. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more.